Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Carmelita. I am a mental health counselor. I'm an LPCIT in the state of Wisconsin. I have a private practice where I see people virtually, but I also see some people in home and some people in school. I have a couple of contracts that I work with, and basically today is a Wednesday. I'm going to take you with me on my day. I'm obviously not going to show you my sessions, but the behind the scenes work of a therapist, I guess, which is not very exciting to watch, but also giving you a little bit of an update. And today I also want to focus a lot on talking about stay-at-home mom depression. I've been seeing like people are looking that up a lot and trying to kind of see, like, I think there's like a, I don't want to say a trend, but like a thing where people are saying that being a stay-at-home mom causes depression or whatever. And I think that that's only true for some people, depending on a lot of factors. Number one, did they want to be a stay-at-home mom or did they not? Just going to talk a little bit about my experience because I do work from home and I am the primary caregiver of my children by choice. That is something I don't even think I've talked about in detail on my channel of why that is, but I guess I can talk about it now. I have some time. But basically my kids, they stay home with me. They're 3 and going to be 1. I plan to put my oldest in preschool this fall, but right now at home primarily, and then my parents watch the kids on Sundays and my husband's parents watch the kids on Thursdays. So I really, and my husband is watching, you know, he takes care of the kids on Wednesdays because he's off work. So the rest of the week is really me. And that's by choice. Like I said, I just don't believe that you should put your kids in a daycare if you can help it. Obviously everybody can't help it and some people need it. But I do think that there is a cultural thing or whatever where if you have a kid, they just expect that you just put them in daycare, and that's just like what we do without really thinking about it. But I was a daycare teacher for 5 years before I went to graduate school, and I think while I was in graduate school a little bit, maybe. I'm getting to the age now where I can't remember my past sometimes. Like okay, what's I? Anyways, yeah, it was 5 years, and I worked in the infant rooms, I worked in the toddler rooms, and I just, even at the best ones that I worked at, I was just like, I wouldn't want to have to send my kid here because, like, I'm doing the best I can, but I make mistakes all the time, and I've seen so many mistakes be made. I made mistakes, and like, it's just not an environment where I want my kids, especially that early on in life. Like, a lot of people don't understand the importance of the infant and toddler mental health and their development. Like, this is the age where they are learning about relationships, whether they can trust you or not. And because they can't do anything for themselves, so they do have to depend on the adults around them to take care of them. And unfortunately, the ratios in daycares, 2 to 4 in, not 2 to 4, 1 to 4 in infant rooms, and I don't remember what it is in toddler rooms. But I remember the infant room because that's where I worked for, I think, the longest time. Maybe not the longest, I don't know. It might be a split. But I remember times where I had 4 babies. I had one here, one on the little bouncy and one on the other bouncy, and I'm bouncing the 2 on the bouncy with my feet. I'm holding these 2 like this, and I'm just rocking everybody. You can't like, and you know, it's crazy because science tells us like babies that are held more, like they have better neurological development and brain development and cognitive functioning and all these things and social skills and whatever, whereas babies that are not have less. And it's like, I'm not saying that anybody favorites what baby, but I don't think daycare teachers really think about it because they're just trying to survive all the screaming babies all at once. I didn't want my kids in there if I could help it, and thank God I can help it right now. So I also came across some research recently that it was a meta-analysis basically and analyzing a bunch of different studies about when is the best time to put your kid in childcare. The synopsis of it is they say 2.5 years to 3 years old is the best time, and it gives a lot of reasons as to why that is. But the research consistently showed throughout the decades that this is the time where they're learning social skills and how to get along with others and things like that, and early literacy. And for those reasons, that's what they recommend. If you're going to do it, that's a good time to do it. And then we know that children should be socialized by the time they're 4. So if they don't not socialize by 4, then it becomes much harder, or by 5. 4 is the age that the latest that you should. And they were saying in the research that 0 to 12 months is the worst time that you can put your kid in daycare because of all the reasons that I explained, plus more. And again, everybody's different. Every child is different. Every family situation is different. So that has to be kept in mind too. But man, I think I'm going to link it in the description box so that you can see it for yourself, and you can look up the research yourself, and you can do the research to see if the research is valid in your opinion, and go ahead. And I'll put that in the description box. But anyway, very insightful. I really liked reading it, and it kind of just validated the things that I was thinking already as somebody who had experience as a daycare teacher, who is now a mother of 2 young children. And also a mental health therapist. So if people just kind of have their own opinions and judge you for, not doing it. And it's yeah, but this isn't your kids. You do what you want with yours, and I'll do what I want with mine. As long as it's, not causing anybody any harm, let me be. So that's what I've been doing. But anyways, back to the main topic of stay-at-home mom depression. I think that can happen if you really engulf yourself into the world of your children. So there is a balance to be had where you need something in life that is outside of the home. I think it's so important to have a sense of identity outside of your children, outside of your marriage, and whether that be a hobby or volunteering or a part-time job or a full-time job or something like that. I think that is important. So I'm not saying being a working mom full-time outside of the house is horrible and you shouldn't do it, because there are pros to it as well. I'm just saying every family is different, and trying to find that balance is hard. I think that there's a lot of pressure on moms either to be working moms or to be stay-at-home moms or to be work-from-home moms. And there's, in the day of media, there is so much information you can consume from all these different people. So I don't want to put off any judgments on you or anybody else of how you're choosing to live your life or raise your children, as long as as long as you're not hurting anybody. I don't want anybody to walk away from my video feeling okay, I judged or whatever. So I think that when you don't have a sense of identity, then it becomes very hard to not become depressed, because you can remember who you were before having children, and then when you have children, something changes. I know for me personally, I was so focused on my career. You can even see in my YouTube channel, all my videos were about graduate school and what was going on at that time. And then I had kids and everything shifted for me, and it became a lot about being a mom, and then I became hard to balance what does that mean and what does that look like. And I went through my own issues with my own figuring out who I am postpartum, and I don't even know, I would say probably postpartum depression both times. It just looked a little bit differently. The first time around, it was very clear to me that this is what was going on with me because of the tearfulness, because of not taking care of myself, taking care of my baby, but not taking care of myself, not taking a shower, choosing between sleep and eating, or whatever, not going outside, although it was winter time, so you can't really, you can, but it's whereas the second time around, I was much more talking to people, I was going out more, so I didn't have that same depressive symptom, but I did have just an identity crisis, I feel because my world became even more engulfed in motherhood, and it's well, then now where do I fit my career, and what does that look like, and all of these things. So I think that being a stay-at-home mom in and of itself doesn't cause depression, but I think that you can become depressed based off of other factors, like not having anything for you, like not having hobbies, or something that takes you outside of the home, not engaging in self-care. And people are like, well, what does self-care mean? What is that? I have a link in my description box with a freebie of like different self-care ideas. It'll take you through 30 days of self-care, and it's basically whatever you want it to be, but this, my little calendar thing is just a starter kit for you to try. But anyway, self-care is basically anything that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be spending money. It can literally just be taking a nap. That's a form of self-care. If you need a nap, take a nap. Reading a book, painting, going on a jog, going on a walk, whatever. But people automatically think, oh, I'm gonna get my nails done, or but it doesn't have to be something where you're spending money. So I think that it's hard because like when you become a mom, your time is sucked into all these different things, but and then so you lose you, like you become more selfless, which is a good thing, but then that selflessness can turn into draining yourself of yourself and not feeding into who you are and the things that make you happy. And so you want to spend some time after you have a child like thinking about, okay, well, what is my life now? What does that look like? What makes me happy now? I'm not who I was when I was 20. I'm somebody else now, or I am who I was when I was 20, but there are changes. And what does that look like? And really investigating, like, it doesn't hurt to watch some self-care videos of what other people do and think about how can you, implement some things if it's interesting to you. Oh, I want to try that, or maybe I should try this or that or the other thing. Some people like to cook, and so it works out because then the people at home can eat the food that you're cooking. So make a recipe that you enjoy, things like that. But I will stop talking about that there because I have to get ready for an in-home session. And then I have a 5:30 session that's virtual and a 6:30 session that's virtual. And so now I'm going to spend some time doing some prep work for my therapy sessions, and I will see you on the other end. So I just want to give some space to talk about postpartum depression signs and versus burnout. So like the first time around I mentioned that like I could notice that there was some signs that I felt like was postpartum depression, and the second time around it was much different, and kind of talking about those differences. So first and foremost, some of the signs of postpartum depression are withdrawal from other people, difficulty in feeling like you can take care of yourself, or sometimes taking care of the baby. Sometimes it's feeling like a less of an attachment with the child. Also having a hard time with sleeping, and sometimes that looks like not only like the obvious like missing time sleeping, but also these are the things that I brought to the in-home session, just wanted to show you. But also like if I were, let's say, to offer somebody like I'll babysit if you want to take a nap, if you even still have a hard time sleeping when somebody else is taking care of the child and all you have to do is sleep, then maybe that could be another sign. So it's not just a depressed mood or feeling down, but it's also some other things. So for me, the first time around, it felt like, first of all, it was winter time. So when I'm up at like 4 a.m., it was very dark, and I was, my husband was asleep, he had to work, so it kind of felt like I was alone in the world taking care of this child in the 4 a.m. And that can kind of feel lonely. So after a while I did move downstairs, because then I could turn the light on, and I just tried to make it feel like it was daytime, like it was time to start the day whenever I had to get up in the middle of the night, and that helped improve my mood a lot, because then I didn't feel like I was missing sleep so much. It more just felt like, okay, this is part of the day, rather than like I should be sleeping right now. And then why did I get into that? So anyway, for me, I could take care of her, and that was actually what I prioritized, where I didn't prioritize my self-care, like taking a shower, eating, like I said, but I would force myself to eat because I was breastfeeding, and also just feeling like irritable, very, very irritable. I was arguing with my husband and yelling, and just mad, just like all the time mad. And so and it began to, my mood began to progress, like got better as I got sleep. So as she got older and was able to sleep through the night, I got more sleep and my mood improved. And then I noticed a dramatic change in my mood once I stopped breastfeeding. When she hit that year mark and I was done, and man, after the days like after my milk dried up, I was like, my goodness, I felt like myself again. I felt like I had woken up from I was a mummy for a whole year, and then I woke up and I was just like myself again. It was crazy. And so knowing that about myself, I said, I'm not gonna have, and I also know that it's harder for me personally to deal with wintertime. It just changes my mood a little bit, and I think it's that way for a lot of people. So I said, I'm not gonna have any more winter kids. No offense to winter people, but my mom was a winter baby, and she always complains about like how there's nothing to do on her birthday and things like that. But like also from my perspective as a mom, like going through the postpartum period in the winter is horrible. So the second time around, my baby was born in the spring, and like late spring, so almost summertime, and so it was just very different. Like 4 a.m., the sun is shining outside, or it's rising. It didn't feel like I was like, I should be sleeping. It felt like, okay, it's time to start the day. Like I was fine with being up at 4, and I also just knew what to expect, so my mood was a little bit different. But also, I was like, I think I posted videos about this months, like last year, where I was like networking with people, and I was like doing business meetings to like introduce my business to local businesses in the community, and I just was in a better mood. I was like, after I had the baby, like 3 weeks, no, what was it, 3 weeks? Was it 3 weeks? I don't know, a month later, I was like ready to go, and I was like, let's do this. I was motivated and everything like that. And then as the seasons began to change, like over the winter, I just felt like, man, I'm hitting a wall. Like I wasn't depressed, I would say, but I felt like a lack of motivation and just kind of feeling a little bit down at times. And I think that's just normal part of life, but at the same time, like that's something that I know about myself, that winter months are harder for me to feel like myself and motivated and things like that. But anyway, the second time around, I felt more signs of burnout than I did of postpartum depression. And so what I mean by that is, yes, I still didn't feel like myself, but I felt like I could manage that, especially since I knew what to expect from having done it before. But like I said, I also felt a huge like energy and motivation, and it was crazy. Like having a newborn, and I had so much energy, people were like, what are you, but I think on the front end, like on the back end, I do think that all that energy in the beginning, I ended up burning myself out eventually, because like I should have been resting. I should have been maybe preparing myself mentally for when my husband went back to work and things changed again, and things like that. So I think that on the front end, I wasn't burned out, but on the back end, as he got older, I actually started getting burned out. And so I went to my therapist and I said, I think I have postpartum depression. And I talked to my husband. My husband was like, I don't think you have postpartum depression. I think you just have a lot going on and you're burnt out. And I talked to my therapist about it. She didn't confirm or deny the postpartum depression, but she did say that there were things that I was doing in life that was just not like feeding into me, and so I was burning myself out. And one of the things that she made me prioritize was self-care, and like making sure that I'm taking time for myself, and what does that look like, and what do I like to do, and how do I organize that into my schedule. And so I spoke with my parents. I think I talked about this actually in another video, but I spoke with my parents, and they watch the kids now once a week. And during that time, that's when I really take time to like rejuvenate, do some self-care and things like that. And I try to implement it more throughout my daily schedule. It's still a struggle to like figure out when I can do things or what I should do with my time, because I feel like there's just so much all the time that needs to be done. But it feels a lot more manageable now. So the key differences that I noticed between the depressive symptoms and the burnout symptoms were the burnout symptoms weren't necessarily depression. They were more just tired, feeling overwhelmed, kind of feeling like anxious in my head, like jumbles of information that I didn't know how to organize. And whereas the symptoms of postpartum was more like I can't take care of myself, I want to run away. Also the exhaustion, the down mood, like the irritability, I think was the huge factor for me. And I think that's one of the reasons I started to feel like maybe the second time around I might have it again, was because I started getting irritable again. But I realized, talking to my therapist, that the irritability was coming from just not feeding into myself in terms of self-care. And I don't mean taking a shower, I mean like taking time to just do the things that I enjoy doing, and not having to do anything that has to do with being a mother or being a wife, but just doing something else that's just about being me. So I think and that's what I talked about earlier, like there is this thing that happens when you become a mom where you kind of lose yourself, and people talk about this all the time, but until you are experiencing it, it's just like, oh, that's what they mean. Because like before, when I would listen to these people talk about it, I would be like, oh yeah, whatever, okay, you lose yourself being a mom, I don't know, what are you talking about? And you hear it so much it just loses meaning. But then when it happens to you, you're like, oh, you think that you know how to not lose yourself, and then you get into motherhood and you start to lose yourself, because like you start engaging in like, making sure the development of your kids is okay, and like they have what they need, and what activities they want to do, and making sure they have clothes and food, and doing their hair every day, and things like that. And then there's taking care of you, and then work, and taking care of the household. And then you just lose like, okay, who am I, what do I like to do, and how do I get back to doing that? Or do I even like those things anymore? Have I changed in my priorities? Hello everybody, I'm back from the in-home session that I went to, and then after that I had 2 sessions back to back. I grabbed I think I made 2 little sandwiches and brought some chips upstairs with me, when I got back home, because I had a little bit of time to eat right in between those sessions. That's always hard, when I have these days where things are back to back, and I usually will schedule time to eat, but it's harder because my schedule is so weird that I don't want to schedule in time to eat for dinner, because I'm trying to cram in all these people in a short period of time, because there's only so many time slots in the evening time that I can see somebody. So I had 4, 5:30, and 6:30. Sometimes I'll even see people at 7. And I've had it where I've seen people at 8 o'clock at night. And so I try and squeeze it all in. And so I don't want to take breaks to eat, during that time. For lunch I will, because usually the afternoon, for whatever reason, at least for me, it's not very, people don't want afternoon slots. They want the evening times, they want the weekend times, because they have work or they have school. So anyways, that's just how it goes. So I'm just going to finish up the progress notes that I was writing during the sessions. I have to write the progress note for the in-home session, because I don't bring my laptop to in-home sessions. I just do the note when I get home. And then I will call it a night. Yeah, so it can be hard to notice the differences between a burnout and postpartum depression, or peripartum depression is what it's called now, which is why it's always important to go talk to somebody who is licensed and knows the differences and kind of like what to look for. And they also have resources on how to help you. There's therapists who are specifically specialized in perinatal mental health, which is basically people who are fully licensed, and then they also have additional training in helping women who have experience, who are pregnant or have been pregnant, and postpartum, and infant loss or miscarriage. I'm trying to remember if I get the whole scope, but I think that's basically the whole scope of it. That is not what I am specialized in, but it's pretty cool. And anyway, yeah, they help with those specific issues. But you could also see any mental health provider, not any, but like most licensed professional counselors or licensed social workers or licensed marriage and family therapists can help with depression. And postpartum depression really is just a major depressive disorder that happened postpartum. But the perinatal mental health specialists are actually specialized in it, and I think those are the best people to see, but they're harder to find because not everybody can do the trainings and the certification and all that stuff. That's one thing about the mental health field, is like there's a million and one things to get trained in and specialized in, but they all cost money. Like, so you're not gonna find a therapist that specializes in everything because it's just too expensive. And also, who has the mental capacity to specialize in everything? You just can't. So people choose their specialties, and that's what they go with. Or there's generalists who would just, treat the depression. But anyway, what's I saying? So yeah, it's hard to find the differences. And sometimes people will think that they have postpartum depression and they're really just burned out, or something else is going on, or maybe it's anxiety or grief in some situations. And sometimes people will feel like they're burned out when it's really postpartum depression. And one of the things too to think about is how your hormones impact your mood. And I was going to say, no matter if it's postpartum depression or burnout, it still can be treated with mental health services. But the key difference, I think, too, is the hormones. So I mentioned that after I stopped breastfeeding, I felt much, much different. And that speaks to the hormonal changes that happen in your body. I think it's progesterone that is active in breastfeeding, which actually inhibits your sex drive. And I don't know what else it does with your moods, but when that levels out and I'm not breastfeeding anymore, I just feel more like myself and I feel better. So every time I have a kid, I basically know that there's going to be a whole year where I'm not feeling like myself. Now, some people might take medication and that's fine for them. Everybody's different in what they need, but I feel like my issues, I feel like I can cope with well enough with mental health services if I need it. Like the first time around, I didn't see a therapist. Actually, did I? I can't remember. I don't think I did. I think I did later on, but not early on. So anyway, the second time around, I'm seeing a therapist because I'm dealing with other issues as well, like as far as adjusting to being a mom of 2 instead of a mom of 1, and also starting a business. What was I thinking, starting a business at the same year that I had a baby? I don't know. Well, I know what I was thinking. I was thinking I need to get out of this job, and I don't want to have to work for anybody else like this ever again in my life. So that's what I was thinking, and that's what led me here. But I don't regret starting a business either. I actually am happier than I have been in a long time in my career because I left that job and I went out on my own. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but I guess also think about your hormones. Have you noticed that there's been a change with your mood depending on what's going on with your body. So have you noticed more irritability since having the baby? Do you feel more or less irritable since breastfeeding? Do you feel more or less irritable since stopping breastfeeding? All of these things. How are you doing with like coping? You know, do you notice any changes in your coping patterns? And what I mean by that is like your coping mechanisms. Are they healthy for you? Like, is it drugs or alcohol, or is it working out? You know, one of those things is not helpful. The other one is, or one of those things feels helpful, but it really isn't. And the other one is helpful. So, thinking about those things too. And again, this is something that you really should talk to a therapist about. So if you even have the hint, the inkling, the whatever, that you might have postpartum depression, go talk to somebody about it that's licensed mental health provider, because they're going to be able to not only give you like an assessment to figure out if that's something that you know, if that's your diagnosis, but also they're going to help you be able to cope with it and help you learn how to advocate for yourself with your, you know, finding a psychiatrist if you feel like you need medications, because some people's postpartum depression is at a different level. Like, you know, some people just feel like they can't even cope with anything or think about anything until they have something, because their hormones are just so out of whack. So it just depends on the person. I think that a lot of people get scared, especially in the Black community, of going to a mental health provider because they think they're going to push drugs on them. And some therapists, well, all therapists, none of us can prescribe, so that should give you some peace of mind in the first place. We cannot prescribe medication. Only psychiatrists can do that, or nurse practitioners, depending on the state that you're in. In Illinois, some psychologists can if they have a specialized training. But anyways, not all of us can prescribe, so that should give you some peace of mind. The other piece of it is sometimes you need medication for a short period of time in life to get through something that your body is having a hard time adjusting to, because the hormones are not where they were to help you feel stable. But like I said, everybody's situation is different. So just talk to somebody, you know, if you're feeling like you're having symptoms. Don't try to self-diagnose. Don't try and find tips off the internet. Just go talk to somebody. Start there. And then your therapist can point you in the right direction of resources for coping and things that are tailored just for you. And that's my 2 cents. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope that you will watch more videos, and make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more content. Bye!